Section 8 tenants are going to destroy your property. Ew, you work with those people, Section 8 tenants? You'll never make real money doing that. Oh, people love to whisper about Section 8, but the truth is, they are my highest cash flowing properties and they are my tenants who stay the longest. So while they can put their noses up at it and say it's risky, I call it recession proof. You know how I know? Because I had to make it through COVID and then they all started calling me and asking me about it. Okay, so I am Ashley Lorraine, M.Ed, and I am a seven-figure real estate portfolio owner, and I built it with no banks, no loans, no trust fund, right? Just mindset and a strategy that I am going to teach you. So in today's podcast, we're going to really focus on what I do in Section 8. So let's talk a little bit about some of those myths first of all, okay? So I'll tell you the top three myths, although I hear dozens of them anytime I go and speak on this topic. The first one I hear is that you cannot evict Section 8 tenants. That is so silly. I don't even know where that came from. Okay, when you have a Section 8 property, you have two agreements. Okay, you have an agreement or a contract between you and the government. That's how they pay you. And then you also have a lease agreement between you and the tenant. Your lease is the same lease you use for any tenant. Okay, so let's say the tenant is parking cars in the grass, and in your lease it says you cannot park cars in the grass. You can and should enforce your lease. And yes, they can be evicted, just like any other tenant. Now, I've been to eviction court quite a few times, so I can tell you the magistrate or the judge will likely ask them if they're getting any kind of assistance. They'll also ask if they have any children living there, not just Section 8 tenants. They're going to ask any tenant you try to evict this. Do they have children living there? And they're also going to ask them if anyone in the house is age 65 or older or has any disabilities. Okay, that because their job is to, try to help them out as much as they can. That's for any tenant. Okay, it's not just Section 8 tenants. So, yes, you can evict a tenant. And what I like about investing in Section 8 is number one, there's a caseworker involved. So if the tenant isn't, doing what they're supposed to do with the lease, but I don't want to evict them, but I do want to have a conversation, I can do that. And I can also speak with their caseworker because sometimes you don't want to evict over something that can just be fixed, right? But in cases where I do evict, I don't know if you know this, but in a lot of housing authorities, they lose their entire voucher. So not only are they now not going to be able to rent your house, but now they won't be able to rent anybody's house with a voucher. And you have to remember, that is how they take care of their children. That is how they secure a house over their own head. So it is much more important for them to not be evicted. They have so much more at stake than a cash renter. Okay. Another myth that I hear a lot is, I wrote it down here. Oh, they're going to tear your property up. Honestly, I'll just start with that comes down to basic tenant screening. But Section 8 does some things that, as a landlord for cash houses, I don't even really do, right? Like Section 8 is going to come out and do an inspection every single year. So and that's free. They don't charge you for that. So they go through the entire house, they take notes, they give you a full report. I mean, what landlord wouldn't want that? Your investment is your property, right? You want to protect your investment. You want to know what's going on with it and what's wrong with it. Okay, and then also, I already mentioned tenant screening, but let's say worst case scenario, right? Let's say you get this tenant that you're imagining in your worst nightmare that everyone thinks is going to happen, and they just tear the whole house just completely up. Don't we pay insurance every month? Like if they just come through and just hit it like a tornado or something like that. Okay, insurance. What would you do if an actual tornado hit? Insurance. You can make renters insurance. You can put that as a part of their, payment, or in some leases, it could be mandatory. I mean, come on now, y'all. What are the chances of somebody coming in and like tearing up the whole house? What do you think they're gonna do? Like break every window and pull all the shingles down? Like, I mean, get real. Think about what you're saying. Okay, I digress. They're not going to tear your house up, especially if you're screening the way that I'm going to teach you how to screen. Okay. At worst comes the worst was something that I saw happen in some of my Section 8. I don't want to ramble too much because I want to get to the details of the properties that I've actually done. But I've seen one situation where there was a rodent issue, and then it wasn't even the tenant's fault. It was because the city had demolished the house next door. So that started like an infestation, and then it got into that property. Um, and with the way that Section 8 works in that housing authority, the tenant was actually responsible for pest control. But because it was that serious situation, obviously, and it wasn't that person's fault, I stepped in and did the pest control and things like that. And then we did have another tenant. Oh, see, this wasn't even a Section 8 tenant. Never mind. I mean, I have not experienced that with my Section 8 tenants. Now, my mentor, when I started 8 years ago, she has been doing Section 8 for like 30 years and she has two horror stories. But I'm like, two horror stories in 30 years and hundreds of properties? I mean, that's better than what people are getting with their cash renters. I digress. Another myth that I hear is Section 8 pays less, that you're going to have to accept less in rental payment. First of all, you get to pick, right, you're a tenant and whether or not you're going to work with Section 8. So let's say if you are in the market and they offer you less, you're not forced to take it. Let's just start with that. But also in this podcast, I want to talk a little bit more about market research. If there are some markets, which I've not seen them yet, but if there are some markets, oh, I did see one in California. I did see one. I'm lying. I saw one the other day. Why would I invest in that market? Because you live there? Why do you feel like you have to invest where you live? I say this all the time. People are going to say, oh, what if a pipe bursts or something? And I'm 2,000 miles away. And I'm always like, oh, what if a pipe bursts or something and you're 2 feet away? What are you going to do? Turn into Mario and Luigi and suddenly become a plumber? You're going to do the same exact thing. You're going to call a plumber to go fix it, or your property management company will set that up for you. Like, stop. Okay. The market is gonna tell you where you're going to invest. Anyway, I say all that to say, typically fair market rent, that is what's used to determine how much rent Section 8 will pay you. And I've seen it consistently, at least in my market areas, at least 10% above what's considered fair market rent. And you are allowed to ask for increases every year, which we do. In my own market, I have never, ever, not even once seen where they pay less than fair market rent. And I have consistently seen where Section 8 pays over the fair market rent. So if that rumor is something that you're running with, it is likely because you are not doing your market research or you're trying to fit a circle into a square, or a square into a circle, however it goes. Like, if that's not the market for cash flow for you, why on earth would you do it? Talk to me first. Talk to me first, people. Hi, hi, hi. And another thing that I like too about when it comes to Section 8 rents is the tenant's portion of the rent is determined by their income. And so I own some cash rentals and I own some Section 8 rentals. And what I like about it is, like, if my cash renter loses their job, they can't pay me, right? If my Section 8 renter loses their job, if their income goes to zero, then Section 8 increases Section 8's part of it. So if my tenants, let's say it's here, right? If my tenant's income decreases, Section 8 is going to increase how much assistance they gives to that person so that they can meet my rents. I really like that part. I myself, have been in situations, especially like in college and stuff, where I was like, man, I lost my job. How am I going to pay the rent? So Section 8 tenants don't have that issue. Okay, so let's get into the next part of our podcast where I want to talk about just the 5 easy steps to get into Section 8 rentals. And as I was looking at this, I was like, this doesn't even have to just be for Section 8. This is really for any rental, right? And bonus points for you because I do this virtually. So now you're going to learn how to do it virtually, which I highly recommend, especially in 2025. So the first thing that you need to get clear about is your exit. And when I say exit, I mean your why, right? Like when you finish the investment and let's say everything has gone the way that you want it to go, what does that look like? Does that look like you've gotten high cash flow for many years from that property and it supplemented your income? Does that mean that the house has appreciated over time and now you're able to either pull some of the equity out or sell it? Does that mean that you put it into your retirement account and now your retirement account has grown substantially because of the extra money that's in there from that property. Like, let's be very, very clear on our exit, because if we don't know our exit, there's no way we can start talking about what market we should be in. So my exit is always going to be high cash flow when it comes to my Section 8 rentals. And you should really think about yours. If you're working with me and you're a new investor, I am also going to recommend that you go for high cash flow first. You need to get revenue. You need to get some breathing room. Oh, okay, I'm making some extra money now. Before you start doing anything risky with loans or BRRRR or whatever other new acronyms are out for that trend, you need to be very clear on your exit, which in my opinion should be cash flow. Which leads me to number two, your market. Now that you know your exit is cash flow, you need to start looking into markets that support high cash flow. And those are going to be markets where you can buy houses very inexpensively, but the rents are still high. And we see this happening in the Midwest, right? Where I tell you guys all the time, my average house that I buy is between $50,000 and $100,000. That's it. And I'm typically buying them in cash. But the rents for those houses are high. Like for the Section 8 pays by the bedroom, right? So if my house is $20,000 or $200,000, if it's in the same neighborhood and it has three bedrooms, it's going to be the same amount of rent that I'm going to be able to get, right? So that's what you want, to be able to buy low, 50K, but then still get a high cash flow. And in a real example, I can tell you right now, most of my houses that I buy are between $50,000 and $100,000. And the rents that I get are between 1250, and I have one that's going above 2000, and it's just really based on the bedrooms. And lately or recently, Section 8 started adding like a tier system based on the zip code, which is why some of those houses went way, 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 way up beyond what they used to be. But that's it. It's so simple. Market research. And you don't have to be in the market that you live in. Like, for instance, I live in Houston in a really fancy schmancy neighborhood, right? There's no way I could afford to buy these houses. If I had to buy them in, even if I got a loan, the down payment would be more than what it would cost me to just buy a cash house in a different market. So the market that I invest in is about 2,000 miles away from me. I've been doing it for 8 years. I love it. Pretty much all of my Section 8 properties are up there, right? And the main thing for me in that market was making sure that I have a virtual team, but I didn't start with the whole team. You don't even need a whole team until you get like a couple of those properties under your belt. I digress. The point is, invest in the market that supports your exit strategy. Okay. What you don't want to do is buy a house because you can. Maybe you got a loan or something and you buy it because you can, and then you're not clear on the exit strategy, and now it can't even cash flow because what you owe on the loan is more than what you'd be able to get in rent, either cash or Section 8. You don't want to be in that situation. Okay. So anyway, market. Then you want to, number three, step three, deal analysis. Okay, so you want to invest for cash flow, high cash flow. You know the market that it's going to work in. If you're working with me, you already know what markets we're going to be in, because I like that. I like consistency and predictability. And then step three is going to be deal analysis. I can't say this enough. As a real estate investor, especially buy and hold, you make money when you buy the house. Okay. And what I mean by that is we're buying numbers, not houses. We are already running a deal analysis, or like our what we call our pre-underwriting calculations, to make sure that that house is going to cash flow well. Now, if you're buying the way I tell you, in cash, for $50,000 to $100,000, I mean, it's not rocket science, right? I mean, it's going to be very high cash flow. I'll walk you through one in a second. It's going to be very high cash flow, right? But if you do decide to get a loan, cool. We just have to run it through some calculations just to make sure that whatever loan you have, plus any other expenses, is going to be less than the rents that you're receiving, so that you can have a profit in the middle, right? The whole reason we're doing this is to be profitable. Okay, so deal analysis is going to be a big part of what you do. A part of that deal analysis is also going to be your repair estimate. So for me, I like to buy the dilapidated houses, but that's because I know my general contractor is my superpower, right? I know my crews will go in there and get it done for me. They know exactly the, specifications needed for Section 8. So they're going to rehab it right to that specification. And and they help me understand the numbers better with my deal analysis. Hey, Ash, it's going to cost $20,000 for me to get this house Section 8 ready. Cool. I plug that into my deal analysis. So I have my purchase price plus how much the repairs are. Great. Write the check. Okay. So that takes me into number four, your inspections and your certifications. So your inspections, for me, on my crew, we have people who previously worked for Section 8. So they're able to go in and inspect the property before we even start repairs. And they let us know this is what needs to be fixed or what needs to happen in order to make sure that we're going to be passing the Section 8 inspection, which the Section 8 inspection is bare minimum. Like you should already be rehabbing your rental property to that standard anyway. When I say bare minimum, I'm talking like they're just making sure you have a screen on the window. They're just making sure that the door opens and closes. I mean, just stuff that you should already be doing anyway. Okay. And my crew's superpower is they go in there, they get a Section 8 ready, they're able to do it quickly. They're really good at doing full rehabs, which is great because that means I can buy houses really, really, really cheap and they can go in and do the full rehab for me. So it's great. And then your certifications. A lot of them you can just do online. So even when I work with people and, I'm coaching them and they're using my entire ecosystem, they never have to touch anything or, everything's done virtually with our team. But that's the one part I say, hey, you have to go in and do your certification. And it's usually a 1 to 2 hour Zoom call. And they're talking more about the compliance and the laws, not so much. They don't really get into what's it like to be a landlord or any kind of tenant screening or anything like that. But they talk more about compliance. And speaking of tenant screen, that is number five. Okay, step five is you want to thoroughly screen your tenants, not just Section 8 tenants, any tenants that you have. And I call this my avatar. There is a certain type of tenant that I like, and I want to make sure that I'm being true to fair housing, to the Fair Housing Act. So I'll let you know up front, you cannot discriminate based on like ethnicity, nationality, someone's color, their religion, their ability or disability, whether or not they have children. I mean, those guidelines are there for a reason, okay? That I listen, follow the law. Okay. But what I mean is I like responsible tenants. So if, I tell you certain steps to complete the application on purpose, I'm going to make certain steps and you don't follow them, you might not be the tenant for me, right? Or if I found out that you said one thing in your application, but then I called your referrals and let's say you're a previous landlord and I asked them what's the zip code to their house and they don't know it. Well, I know that wasn't your previous landlord. Okay, you're not honest. And I also like you have to know yourself. I also like people with beta personalities. I like people who are, yes, ma'am. I'm so glad to be here. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Oh, you need me to fix that? Oh, no problem. Yes, ma'am. I'll take care of it. That's what I like. And that's why I always recommend that you interview your own tenants. Even if you have a property manager working with you, we have a tenant voucher placement agent that we have on our team. And even she knows I want to talk to the people before they're placed. Because if you're all like, rah, rah, and I'm gonna do things my way and she better, blah, oh no, 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 you are not for me, child. You are not for me, okay? All right. But you want to be thorough. And of course, working with me, my team, we do all this stuff with you for you. We teach you how to do it. But if you're going to be doing this DIY, then you need to make sure that you do it yourself. All right. So those are my five main steps. And then after that, we get into post-tenancy, which there's two ways. You can hire a property manager, which you have plenty of money to do that if you're buying the way I say, which is you're buying cash, 50K to 100K, and you have all this cash flow coming in, like sometimes over to 2,000 a month. I mean, you can afford a property manager easy. But if you just have a couple of properties, you're like, I'll self-manage, that's totally doable too, especially now with AI. Well, I should do a podcast just on all the AI we use. But anyway, especially now with AI, you can definitely self-manage virtually. I've done dozens of properties virtually by myself before we had chat and all of that stuff. My mentor 8 years ago, I remember man, I don't want to say because I don't want people counting her pockets, but I'll just say she had a lot of properties and she never hired a property management company. And she, like me, lived in Texas and invested in the Midwest. So it's doable. But let me give you some disclaimers. I have to give some disclaimers if you're going to do DIY. Okay, it is important. It's the reason why I do all of this and say, hey, you need to work with someone like me. I have the team, I have the experience. Because a couple of years ago, me and a couple of other people were silly enough to, say where we invest. And then, of course, everyone flooded the market once they saw the numbers we were getting. And as a response, the city has recently put in something called a residents first initiative. So that just means now you have to have something called a local agent in charge. You have to have someone who actually lives in that city who says if you get any kind of violations, be they civil or criminal, that they're going to be responsible for it. I don't know about you, but if you're investing virtually and you call somebody and say, are you going to be responsible for any criminal charges that I get? I have a feeling you're going to get a no 100% of the time. Okay. Also, with a lot of virtual investors coming in and they were just being really like slumlords, now there are not some, a lot of violations and they are not playing. So we saw a couple of years ago, we were all getting letters in the mail, like $200 a day fines per property. And we're like, what? Yes, it is real. So you want to have a GC up there who's able to take care of that. You want to have a property management company up there who can take care of that, which we have on our team. And when you work with me, I extend that to you. You want to have it. And then another thing that they're doing right now too is there's a lot of legislation obviously going on with the residents first, and it's a good thing because people should take care of their properties, but they're also having you register your rentals. So if you want to have a rental property, it has to be registered a certain way. You have to have certain inspections in place. We already have our inspector, our lead inspector, our team, all of that in place. So if you're going to do it DIY, I'm just going to say you need to get real about, do you really know somebody 2,000 miles away who says they're going to take on your criminal and civil charges should you get any? And if you're new, you probably will because you don't have anybody on your team who knows how to get you through those violations or to do it the right way. Um, I'm not sure how you're gonna do that. That's why I recommend you work with me or someone like me, right? I might not be your cup of tea or you might not be mine. But anyway, if you're DIYing, that's something I would tell you to look into. On our team, we also have an attorney who's really good at like, someone was worried about evictions. She's really good at making sure we're on top of compliance. She's very much plugged in with the local legislature. So we do get some, help and tips you know, and we greatly appreciate it. And it's not necessarily from the attorney, it's just from the network that we're able to be in. Those people wouldn't probably talk to me, but they want to be cool with the attorney. So they talk to me. Anyway, I digress. So in this podcast, we talked about some myths surrounding Section 8. We talked about the 5 steps to invest in really any rental property, but in Section 8 properties. And then I also told you, hey, be careful. If you're going to be investing virtually, you want to be plugged in with someone like me who has a team up there, who has experience up there. Me and my team have been doing this for almost a decade together, same way, same market. I like predictable outcomes. And so if that's something you're interested in, let's talk. You can just schedule a meeting with me on Calendly. It's free, and I'll just kind of get an idea of what it is you're trying to do and to kind of see how or if I can serve you and help you meet your goals. All right, guys. So if nothing else, I want you to know that investing is as easy as A, B, C. A, get you an Ashley. B, get you a blueprint. C, get you a coach. All right? Okay. I'll see you guys next time. I know we talked a little bit about tenant screening, and next time we'll talk a lot about tenant screening. All right. Bye, guys.